Did your father tell you enough on sex and dating? Or if you are a father today, like me, do you have enough arguments for your own kids on premarital relationships?
How beautiful you are, my darling. How beautiful.
How handsome you are, my beloved. Oh, how charming.
Arise, my friend, my beautiful one, and come.
Let him kiss me with kisses of his mouth.
Honey and milk are under your tongue.
But wait till we married.
Why?
Some 50 years ago, Czech psychologist Miroslav Plzák described something like a natural law of sex importance for a relationship. So he described it in text, but when we have a look at it in a graph, we receive a graph shaped like a slide. So the know-how around it is as follows. When we have a look at the relationship in time, we can see the importance of sex for the relationships in 3 stages. The first period is called great fascination. We are totally in love. We fly in 7th heaven. It lasts typically weeks, maybe up to months, but this great erotic love, erotic fascination expires. It's over, and the importance of sex for the relationship lowers. It's still very high, but lowers. And we come to the second stage called great consumption. Lasts typically months, maybe several years, typically 2 to 3 years, maybe up to 5-7 years, but then it's over. And then comes the third stage called sobering. Any fascination is over, and this mathematics of love does not depend on our partner. So a Miss Universe, Man of the Year, doesn't matter. After some time, it's over, and erotic love is still important, but by far not so much as in the first years. Doesn't depend on your partner's sex appeal. There are 3 basic problems that we can show thanks to this graph. The first one is that when we start having a sex relationship with anyone, we put on rose-colored glasses. We finish with selection of our partner for at least months, typically several years. We do not see what we could see if we were not having sex together. So people are fascinated, they consume their love, but they finished with their selection because they are blind. It blinds us. This is the primary goal of many girls, to blind us. And on the contrary, goal of many boys, to blind the girl. Well, the second problem is that people do not know this graph, and they go from one relationship to another, and when fascination is over, they think they did not find the right one. Maybe yes, maybe no. But generally, there is a chain of micro divorces. People go from one relationship to another, and they make the same mistake. They start living together sexually. The third problem, sexual fascination helps to strengthen the relationship. But the problem is that it helps to strengthen all of them, the good ones, and also the relationships that are not good candidates for strengthening at all. The tragicomic ones, tragicomic relations, everybody sees this is not the right couple because they have nothing in common except for sex. So falling in love is free of charge. But love is a hard work. If you want to have a good relationship in the long run, you must be smart. There is a solution, we will suggest it, but first we must have a look at science a little bit. Well, there is a scientific connection with sex, something called microchimerism. It was made as a discovery some 10, maybe 15 years ago. When a woman becomes pregnant, she makes permanent exchange of cells with her baby. The cells of baby are transferred to the body and tissues of mother, and cells of mother are going to baby. Cells and DNA pieces are important to mother's blood and tissues, and what is the most important fact is that the baby repairs her mother. Stem cells from the fetus are transferred to the tissues that are damaged, and the baby repairs her mother. Certain level of this phenomenon of microchimerism is necessary for pregnancy to last. And it's good to know that many pregnancies pass by unnoticed by a woman. This means that woman is not aware of the fact that she was pregnant. And in spontaneous miscarriage or artificial man-made abortion, this influence is even stronger than in a successful pregnancy. Dr. Diana Bianchi, who discovered microchimerism with her team, says a pregnancy lasts forever because every woman who has been pregnant carries these little souvenirs of the pregnancy for the rest of her life. Especially women, but I think also men, we are taking souvenirs, biological, physical souvenirs from every relationship that we have. Once we start living sexually together, our bodies, male and female body, unite. In addition to this, today we know that there are many more sexually transmitted diseases than we thought. Formerly, it was thought it was like human papillomavirus or AIDS and so on. However, there are tens, maybe hundreds of diseases that are normally not considered to be sexually transferred, but they are. There are many reasons why we should preserve our body, our fertility for the right partner, for our marriage, and the purity of our bodies for our own kids. For our own kids to be really our own kids. My and my wife, me and my unique woman. Some people would never wear a second-hand piece of clothes. However, their own bodies resemble a second-hand shop. Once we start with promiscuity, we are not only hunters, we are hunters and gatherers. We are not created, we are not constructed, our bodies. We are not made for any promiscuity. Sex is a great gift. Mainstream media and culture are gaming sex since the 60s of the last century. But it's simply not true. In the last century, we didn't know about many things like microchimerism, immune system reactions, the importance of chastity for fertility, and so on. Today we know it. So, sorry, no game. these rules are commandments. God commands us, but if we do not believe in God, then let's say it's a wisdom. So everybody understands we should not steal, we should not lie, and somewhere between a murder and a robbery is adultery. So the 6 commandments, maybe some say have different numbering, but it's not very substantial. The 6th commandment, that sex does not belong outside of marriage or before marriage. And second, the 9th commandment says that we should not long for another woman. This is the beginning of adultery. The beginning of adultery is not physical, it's not embodied. The beginning of adultery is in our heads. When we say, yes, we can, there we begin with our adultery or fornication. So sex belongs to marriage. This is the basic message. However, today many people say, okay, it's a millennia old, is it still valid? And they think maybe God forgot to send us the latest version now with the 6th commandment. Our times are different. There is internet, DNA, COVID, and so on. We understand CRISPR cutting and so on. However, it is valid. We do not need any updater. It works. And some people say, okay, but it's not for me because I have nasty ideas. Well, so Christian view of sin is that we cannot get rid of temptations. The problem and vice begins when we do not fight, because from a nasty idea up to our action, there are steps. And the sin in a Christian view begins with our consent. So we cannot get rid of any ideas, but we can get rid of our consent with these ideas. When I hear a nasty joke, a good one, really good joke, it occurs, it's not a sin. The sin begins when I tell it to another friend, and when I like it in my mind, when I occupy my mind with this, then the sin begins. Okay, so generally fight. When you fight with your ideas, when you fight with your body, when you try to control your temptations, God knows, and she knows. If we are dating a girl, she knows. Yes, she knows about our fight. Well, this point is for us if we believe in God. However, again, I think it's interesting also for people who do not believe there is any God. Why? Because it's general moral rules for good dating, for preserving our freedom. And the rules are like this. First, your love may lead to marriage. When I start dating with someone, does it mean that I must marry her? No, but it should not be excluded. If I'm dating with a girl and I do not think I would ever marry her, it's not good. It's really, in Christian worldview, it's sinful. I do not treat her correctly. We should never go on dating when we think we would never marry this girl. Girls that would never marry this guy. We should split up the relationship immediately because we should not waste her time and opportunity to be dating so that there might be a marriage. Second point, that love preserves your chastity, which is the 6th commandment. So there are these 2 conditions for good dating. And these are also the conditions for the searching of the right one, because when we want a long-term relationship, love is not free of charge. It demands a lot. So we can formulate a strategy. The best strategy before marriage is maximum in the dialogue of minds and minimum in the dialogue of bodies. The other day, I had a lecture on these topics for university students in Prague. And after the lecture, the second day, the second morning, one of the students came to me and told me, this morning, I split up my relationship with my girl because I found out that it was just an opportunity for sex. And I would like to have much more from my girl. Now I understand the background. Yes. So the background, when you have a look at the graph, when you imagine and realize what you're doing with your own body, then you have it. If you preserve these two basic rules, you preserve your chastity, and the relationship may lead to marriage, you do not exclude the possibility to marry this girl. Do not fear of dating. Practice makes perfect. Premarital chastity is our main option to show to our beloved one that we really take God seriously. Well, there is something called D-Day principle. D-Day is a military term, day of attack in many armies. In fact, it is a day when our love is at a crossing. Once we start dating a girl, after several months, we can either follow our bodies, put on the rose-colored glasses, and go to fascination immediately, starting having sex in several months, weeks, or even hours. And it's free of charge. We follow our bodies. But it has a price, as we know already. Or we can come to the point D in time. The point D means dialogue, when we must talk together about sex. And we can come to the conclusion as follows. Look here, you are very attractive. I'm in love with you. But I think that once we start having sex together, we will finish with communication. We will finish with getting to know each other properly and so on. So I want to have sex with you, but not yet. And you make an agreement together to postpone your sexual life after marriage. So point D is for dialogue, point M is for marriage. It's a time shift that you make together. And it's a hard work because you will learn to communicate together without having full sex together. And you will find a boredom in your relationship. You will find a desert. There will be deserted days when you ask, is this really the right girl? And for girls, is this the really right guy? Do I really want to marry her? And you will have to consider, you will have to think, which is very healthy. And you will have to communicate. Maybe you will argue. You will have to find a way back together to each other. So premarital chastity is a time shift, transformation of the sexual fascination, and postponing it after marriage. But after marriage, there is a great difference because you finished your selection and you wanted this girl, you decided to have her, and you decided to marry her. So sex is something that is here yet to come between us. Love demands a lot, and you cannot have a good relationship free of charge. Together, if you make this agreement and you come to the agreement that you postpone together your sexual life after marriage, then you make something beautiful for God. This is the first very serious agreement that you make together. It's a very healthy, very substantial training. Well, there are many more questions, but generally, I think there are, let's say, 50 to 100 basic questions regarding premarital relationships. Many of them you can find in mine books that are written in Czech. However, one of them is translated in New English, and you can find a link for a free download in the description of this video. Thank you for watching.